a lot of the reason I got into fitness and wellness to begin with was, well, I wasn't always actually involved in it from the get-go. That's what's so crazy. I used to be one of those, kids. I was a skinny kid that a lot of people would poke fun at, which, of course isn't the greatest thing in the world to, have to deal with. But I was always that skinny kid. I would just snack on a bunch of candies and anything that was not very healthy. So Reese's, Twizzlers, you name it. So like the whole nine yards, basically. I would literally eat a whole bag of Twizzlers, even like I was not, at all conscious of what I was putting in my body. But what really changed all that and pivoted, me from being where I was to where I am currently today were a couple life events. One especially in particular, having the news that my grandpa passed away due to cancer, receiving that tough, really, really, really tough news. It really did something to me. And obviously, it really put me in a pretty bad depression for a little bit. But right after that, that inspired me not too long after to transform my own life and what I was putting in my body because I didn't want to go down that same exact road or path for myself.
Welcome to Linda's Corner, where we bring more hope, healing, and happiness into the world. Today, we're going to be talking about how to break old patterns that are not serving you. I'm delighted to welcome Roman Fischer. Roman is an actor, model, and high performance coach. You can reach Roman at his website, romanfischerofficial.com, and I'll include a link in the show notes. Welcome, Roman. I'm so glad that you could join with me today.
Definitely. It's a pleasure being here.
Thank you. I am so delighted to be talking about health and fitness. And I would love to know how this became important to you, and not only for yourself, but you wanted to be able to help other people to improve their health and fitness.
Yeah, certainly. So a lot of the reason I got into fitness and wellness to begin with was, well, I wasn't always actually involved in it from the get-go. That's what's so crazy. I used to be one of those, kids. I was a skinny kid that a lot of people would poke fun at, which, of course isn't the greatest thing in the world to, have to deal with. But I was always that skinny kid. I would just snack on a bunch of candies and anything that was not very healthy. So Reese's, Twizzlers, you name it. So like the whole nine yards, basically. I would literally eat a whole bag of Twizzlers, even like I was not, at all conscious of what I was putting in my body. But what really changed all that and pivoted, me from being where I was to where I am currently today were a couple life events. One especially in particular was just seeing, I didn't obviously see it like live, but it was still a really rough thing, just having the news that my grandpa passed away due to cancer. And, obviously that's not something that anyone really wants to have to deal with or find out about in their lives. Of course, death, as we all know, is inevitable at some point for all of us, but getting that news about your family member, especially one that I would see a lot with, once or twice a year, I would see him with family and we would go on trips together and just all those good memories. And then receiving that tough, really, really, really tough news, it really did something to me. And obviously, it really put me in a pretty bad depression for a little bit. But right after that, that inspired me not too long after to transform my own life and what I was putting in my body because I didn't want to go down that same exact road or path for myself. And then from there, after I got into fitness and I started working out pretty consistently, about 3 to 4 days a week with weights and then cardio, I just fell in love with it. I really enjoyed the endorphins that I was getting from my workouts and then combine that with the organic food that I eventually started eating because I researched on the internet that pesticides are in a lot of our fruits and vegetables, especially the ones that you eat with the skin, like apples, for example, or just carrots, the ones that you just eat raw with not much, protection, if any. That is what's going to really get you long term with the pesticides. So knowing that I was able to opt for organic, that was huge. And all that combined with the healthy, dieting, if you want to call it that, and just a healthy living with my workouts, it gave me such great endorphins. I felt more alive. I had more energy. And so eventually I wanted to share that same, passion and feeling with everyone else around me, especially after hearing the news about my grandpa.
So how old were you when your grandfather passed away?
Yeah, so when he passed away, I was in my I was not much past 20. I was about 20 years old.
Okay. And that's when everything just sort of changed and you recognized, oh my gosh, I'm immortal and mortality does not last forever. And
Yeah.
I get to choose how I feel in the meantime. So, how marvelous that you were able to get something good out of something that was very bad.
Yeah.
So, that's wonderful that you were able to pull into that place and then to decide and discover that, hey, I like this. I like the way it makes me feel. And that just is so exciting when you love something enough that you want to share it and that passion. And I actually kind of like the backstory that this was not from birth and the get go that you were all into health and fitness.
Yeah.
Because then when you have clients who are like, I want to eat a whole bag of Twizzlers, you're like, oh, I know, I understand that. I've done that. You know what? And that's okay. That was before. And now let's do something new from here on out. And wonderful things can come from it. So that is great. Okay. So this is
Definitely.
all about just feeling good. So let's talk about health in general. Why I've heard it said that if you took every positive thing you have in your life, like your money, your car, your house, your whatever, you could call them all zeros, count it as a zero. And then your health is a one. So if you add one and a zero, you got 10. You add one and two zeros, you got 100. You add one and six zeros, you got a million. But without the health, without that one, it's really hard to enjoy anything else.
Yeah.
So how
That's
is
so
that kind of
true.
the way you feel about health and just why is this? I mean, just the number one thing to that matters.
Yeah, definitely. So health, as they call it, it's wealth. Health is wealth. And without health, you don't have anything. Like you could be the richest person on the planet, the richest person in the universe. You could have every car, every dollar bill, you could have every mansion on the block. But if you don't have your health in check, even one bit, you're not going to last. And you're also not going to be able to be around to enjoy that. And you also won't be able to be around your family. And family is important, definitely.
Does it just it's so integral to everything else that we can possibly enjoy. I had a friend who was just experiencing great success in his career and lots of money and then he got cancer and he thought, crud, all the fame and the money in the world is not going to fix this. So I need to change some things and do things better. So I absolutely and completely agree. Okay, so as we're talking about health and fitness, how do you feel about like fad diets and fad
Yeah.
workouts? Because it changes like every 5 minutes. Like, I want to be healthy. Oh, you got to do this. This is the thing today. And don't do that thing. That was so last week. So how do you feel about that?
Oh yeah, there's so many though. Keto diet, paleo diet, intermittent fasting. I mean, you can really just go on and on until the sun goes down and comes back up. But how I feel about it personally, I don't really believe that fad diets are necessary. I believe you could still do a fad diet if you want to, if like that's your thing, and you could still see results in like weight loss because that's, the reason most people do these diets anyways to try to lose weight, burn fat. Now you can still do these diets and still burn fat as long as you're in a caloric deficit. But by the end of the day, though, I don't recommend doing these fad diets because for the long term and the long process and the long run, they're not necessary. And most people are going to fall off and not stick with it because they're very restrictive, especially the keto diet, just to name one, because you have to restrict so many carbs from your diet to stay in ketosis, as they call it, the state where you're burning fat and you're basically eating fat and you're burning fat. So it's an effective way to do it, but it's definitely not sustainable. And again, it's really not necessary. As long as you're in a caloric deficit, that's all you need. And just make sure you're eating at least quality, balanced nutrition with, plenty of carbs, more complex carbs than anything. More, natural sugars, less added sugar for sure. some more fruits, less added sugars, and then a lot more protein. High protein diets are the only really type of diets I recommend personally.
Okay. And I love that there's more than one way to do things. And I once was with a group of friends, and it was so ironic because like everybody was doing some kind of diet, and a couple of them were doing this kind and a couple of them were doing that kind. And they were
Yeah.
like polar opposites. One is like, yeah, intermittent fasting. And the other one was like, oh no, metabolic, you're supposed to eat a whole lot and eat a bunch to keep your metabolism going. And both of them came up with all this research to support it. And I thought, this is bizarre. How can
Yeah.
we have two totally and completely opposite ways of doing things? And both of them are saying, no, no, my way is the real, backed by science way. So it sounds like you're just suggesting let's eat high protein, good quality foods, and maybe move our bodies, because you're talking about that caloric intake and being able to use it. So are you saying maybe we should get out and move our bodies a little bit?
Definitely. Now, I will admit it's crazy because technically you could still lose weight and burn fat without any exercise if you're in enough of a deficit of your maintenance calories. But it's easier to have, a healthy diet and work out too, because when you work out too, you're burning extra additional calories. And you're not having to be as much as you're not having to be as much of a deficit as you would be if you didn't have, the workouts. So by working out, you can have, more calories that you eat because you won't need to create as much of a deficit to fill that gap, if that makes sense.
So you do calorie counting and like an app or something where you say, I ate this much, it's this many calories, I worked out, I did this much, or you just kind of eyeball it or wing it, or
Yeah. So what I do, most people use apps these days. What I do is I just look at, the labels of the foods, unless I'm already really familiar with it. By this point, I'm pretty familiar with what I eat. I usually eat the same thing. Not that you have to do that by any means, but that's how I'm pretty familiar with like what to track. And I just put it in my phone and my notes, and then I just add up the macros and then the overall calories from there.
all right. So now that you said you eat the same thing every day, I'd like to hear what you eat every day. What's breakfast? What's lunch? What's dinner? Do you get to snack?
Definitely. Yeah. So I occasionally snack a little bit, but what I usually do is I just eat 3 big meals with some filler snacks because I'm actually coming off of a lean bulk. So just trying to finish up getting that muscle before I start cutting down. Because I'm planning on doing a show later on this year. But what I usually do and what I usually eat in the morning is I'll typically have like some protein shakes if I have them, or some protein bars just to start the day. After that, I'll have some protein oats, have some peanut butter, have some milk with it, and then some bananas. So that really helps to get some carbs and some fats and protein all in one meal. So
Is
quite
this
a good
all breakfast,
balance.
or is this breakfast and lunch? All
That's
breakfast?
breakfast and lunch
Oh, okay.
usually.
All right.
And then so later, then I'll have like a filler snack, have some grilled chicken, not too much, I'd say about 6 ounces of grilled chicken with some organic broccoli, organic carrots, and maybe some spinach too to go along with it, just to, have some more protein that I wasn't able to get as much earlier in the day. And then towards dinner, I'll have more grilled chicken because I'm a chicken fanatic. So I'll usually have several ounces of grilled chicken with some broccoli, carrots, spinach, usually about the same vegetables. I might throw in some, portobello mushrooms, organic ones. So those are really good. And then I'll mix that in after I cook some jasmine rice. I'll throw it all together and add in some garlic salt, garlic powder, and onion powder. And it's good. And I'll even throw in a couple, tablespoons of butter too, if I'm low on my fat.
Okay. So it sounds like it's yummy.
Oh
To
yeah.
me, because I think life is meant to be enjoyed. And a lot of times when you start saying that diet word, which makes people just cringe,
Yeah.
it's like you panic before you even started.
Oh yeah.
So you're feeling satisfied. You're feeling like, oh, this is yummy. I'm looking forward to dinner. And your breakfast is easy. Do you ever get bored, or this just works? It's fast and easy, and you
Yeah.
don't. think about it. It's just like, what's for dinner? It's like, no, I got this. I know what dinner is, and I'll be ready in, 20 minutes or whatever.
Yeah, usually for the most part, I'm actually pretty content with it. I'm just one of those guys that I don't usually get tired of things too quickly or very easily. But, every now and then I might, mix it up and I'll have like a steak, grass-fed steak, grass-fed steak to, have a little red meat every now and then, which is, okay in moderation. And then I'll have some asparagus or some broccoli with that steak. And then I might switch up instead of having just chicken and vegetables, I might have some egg whites or eggs and have that, with my spinach instead of the chicken all the time. And then just have a little more protein powder to supplement if I'm a little low on protein. So I'll definitely switch it up a little bit every once in a while.
Okay. Well, that sounds great. That sounds doable. Like, oh, I guess I could do that. That would be all right. So, how do you help people stay motivated? Because, I mean, everybody knows like you do a New Year's resolution. Okay, this year is going to be the time. I am going to lose weight. I'm going to get more fit. I'm going to be exercising. And then the gyms are packed on
Oh
January
yeah,
2nd,
always.
3rd. And then it starts to slow down, 5th, 6th, 7th. And then, by the end of January, it's back to normal.
Yeah,
So
always.
how
That's how it
not
goes.
fall off that wagon? What can keep us motivated?
Yeah. So the best advice that I can give anyone that's, trying to, whether they're trying to gain muscle or lose weight, which is usually the latter one's the usual one that people are going for New Year's. But my recommendation for anyone trying to just stay consistent is to understand that this is a process. This isn't something you're just going to achieve overnight. It's definitely something you have to work, towards continuously day in and day out. Also, too, my recommendation is to not put too much pressure on yourself and don't set such high standards. I mean, yes, have, high standards to an extent, but don't set them so drastically high where it basically frightens you. So make sure to just break your huge goals into smaller ones and then work towards those over time, little by little, and break it up into phases. Also, having an accountability partner could be a friend, family member, or could be a coach. So anyone along those lines, just to hold and keep you accountable, especially if that's something you struggle with quite a bit.
That sounds fantastic. So some of the things I'm hearing is I need to be compassionate with myself, and I need
Yes,
to be realistic in my goals and in my expectations, and recognize that this is a process and it is okay if I'm not perfect at it right away. And also, I love the idea of taking the goals and breaking it down into smaller, manageable chunks so that you can feel like, hey, I accomplished something. Hey, I did something. And then having that accountability partner so that, somebody is going to know whether or not I stepped into that gym because I got to tell them.
exactly.
So that sort of thing is just so common sense. And so how does a coach fit into all of this? Is the main job to give this instruction and to be accountability to give that accountability, or is there something else that you bring to the table?
Definitely. So other than, of course, that pure utter accountability, I also do just guide them every step of the way. So beyond just the accountability, I give them, tools and tips of what they have to do from start to finish. And honestly, though, there really isn't a finish line. So I just make sure after we finish that phase, we go into another phase on whatever other goals they might have. Or if we're just trying to continue those goals and working towards those other goals, then I'll just make sure that they stay motivated and stick with it. And of course, I also give them customized meal plans, customized workouts, and also I show them and tell them how to do the workouts. So it's very cool, very neat. And yeah, I also do two private sessions with them a week. So other than just texting them or maybe calling them every now and then, I also keep them very accountable with doing two coaching sessions a week and just
That-
figuring out, their, pain points that they're currently experiencing, any other, problem that they're dealing with, and any motivation that they need for whatever goal they have.
That is awesome. So let's talk a little bit about, in order to come to this place, we might have some old patterns that we have to let go of.
Yeah,
What kinds of things have you noticed that are our patterns that just maybe aren't serving us, but they're so familiar. We just keep doing them. What kinds of things do you just see like over and over again? It's like, yeah, I've seen that one.
definitely. So a lot of people saying, and this is probably the biggest one, a lot of people saying they're going to do things and they don't. So it could apply to fitness, especially, but it could also apply to a lot of other things or really anything in life. A lot of people will say they're going to do X, Y, and Z, but then they don't actually do it. And they spend more time talking about it than actually going out and doing it. So their brains effectively and essentially are mistaking, their words for actions. It's crazy. There has been like studies done too where people say they're going to do this thing, but they don't actually end up doing it. And their brains thinking they're actually accomplishing and achieving things. It's really
What?
neat.
That's
Yeah.
fascinating. So if I say the words, hey, I'm going to go to the gym, my brain has already given me the reward as like, good job, nice goal, you are awesome. And then when I do nothing, I get, that little temporary happiness, and yet I don't get any of the physical benefits. And that idea of not following through is huge. And
Yeah.
it, like I said, it applies to every single aspect of our life. And I think for me, I want my words to mean something. Like if I say
Always.
it, I'm going to do it. And if I don't mean it, I'm not going to promise it. So that matters to me very much. So excellent. Okay, so let's say I'm one of these people, and you know what? I said the words, and so I'm good to go. How can you help me to change that so that I actually do what I said I was going to do instead of just moving on?
Definitely. So other than just verbally saying it, to yourself or other people around you, I also make sure that on the coaching calls, especially I do with them, I make sure they write out, the action steps that they're going to do even better for next week. So if they miss their workout or for some reason, if they didn't do the other objective that I had for them, I just make sure that they write it out and how they're going to achieve it and what they're going to do. So that's another way I keep them really accountable. And then I do, check-ins with them and text too, just to make sure that they're doing what they're doing. So I do a lot of those things as well. That's been actually pretty helpful, especially when they write it out though, because I've noticed when people say things, it might get done, but it's just it's a halfway to the check mark. But when they actually write it out, it almost solidifies that's what they're going to do because it puts it into their subconscious, and it's really neat and interesting how that works.
Fascinating. So what a simple tool rather than just saying it, writing it out. And
Oh
as you
yeah.
gave your example, I heard another tool, and that was the action steps. So rather than saying, I am going to improve my fitness, I am going to lose weight, I am going to some broad thing, by turning it into some specific action steps. This is what I'm going to eat for breakfast. This is what I'm going to eat for lunch. This is what I'm going to do to exercise, making something specific. You're probably familiar with the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. And some of those things about breaking it down into specific steps are very helpful to get over that idea of saying something or wanting something to actually accomplishing that thing. So very well done. Very well done.
Yeah,
So
thank you.
into smaller little specific action steps. So what kind of exercise? What's your favorite? What do you do?
Yeah, my favorite exercise, I would honestly have to say it used to be squats with leg day, but honestly at this point right now, I'm really loving, just chest press. Just the, good old barbell chest press. It's my favorite.
Does it just feel good, like you accomplished something awesome when you see the weight, like, oh, today I pressed this many pounds and
Oh
aw
yeah, just seeing like that increase in weight, and then of course just the feeling of being able to just go up and just go all the way down, go up, go down, and then lift it right back up, and you feel like you're lifting up the world sometimes. So it's really neat, yeah, especially after a cup or two of coffee. Oh yeah,
That's your secret weapon, huh? A cup
oh
or 2 of
yeah,
coffee, and then I can lift the whole world. Excellent.
exactly.
That is really cool. Well, let's see. What inspires you the most? What
Yeah, what inspires me the most, honestly, is just seeing what I feel like I could become and just all the other people around me that I look up to. So one celebrity example I could really say is Arnold Schwarzenegger. So it's funny because he did a lot of the things I'm actually pursuing right now with acting, and then of course fitness, bodybuilding, that area of things too. So those two things in particular really stood out to me at a younger age. And then seeing what he did and what he accomplished and how many other things he accomplished on top of those two things, that really inspired me a lot. So I'd have to say, just it's a combination really between him and what he did and what he accomplished, and then knowing that I've already achieved some of those things already with helping people with their fitness journey and seeing my clients transform. So I'd say it's a combination of the celebrity Arnold and also the things that I've accomplished with helping people transform their bodies and their minds.
I love that. And I loved when you mentioned like Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's like he did this and this, and he also accomplished so many other things.
Oh
And
yeah.
I think many of the skills that we develop as we learn how to take care of ourselves and to have some self discipline and to be able to keep our word, especially keeping our word to ourselves, that we gain this skill set, which gives a benefit to our health, the way that we feel, the way that we look, and it also helps to change who we are. And then that skill set can go to anything, anything else that you want to do, anything else that you want to accomplish. If you have that self discipline, if you have that motivation, if you can keep yourself going, I think you can do anything.
Oh yeah. Definitely. Yeah, the mindset, and I've said it on a lot of other podcast interviews, but also in a lot of my videos that I post to my social media, that your mindset, that's really everything. I mean, obviously, there's with fitness, there is obviously a physical aspect to it with working out and such, but if your mindset's not there, it won't matter, how badly you wanted to work out before, because if your mindset's not there on that single day, on that given day that you're, might want to work out, it's not going to happen. Like your mind has to be clear, it has to be focused, and it has to be very motivated, but even more so consistent in whatever that you were wanting to do.
And is that the mindset I'm looking for? Is to be clear and consistent and motivated. What was the fourth thing? I can't remember. Um, mhm. Anyway, so that's where we need to be at. That's
Oh
awesome.
yeah.
Okay, sweet. Roman, is there anything else you want to make sure that we cover before we close today?
Let's see. So my advice for anyone out there that's struggling to stick with it and stay motivated, just to reiterate earlier, is to understand this is a process. It's not something that you're just going to arrive at. You're not going to get to the destination tomorrow. You're not going to lose those 10 pounds tomorrow, and you're not going to gain those 10 pounds of muscle tomorrow. It all takes time. It's a journey, it's a process. But what's cool is knowing that this is a journey and then enjoying the journey. That's what's going to make the destination that much better. So just remember to stick with it and never give up. And if you need help, just reach out to a coach or an accountability partner.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you, Roman. This has been a delight.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
In closing, I'd like to share a quote by the Buddha. He said, "To keep the body in good health is a duty. Otherwise, we shall not be able to keep our mind strong and clear. Today, I invite our listeners to take care of their body and their health and to break those old patterns that aren't serving you. See you next time on Linda's Corner. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode of Linda's Corner, please share and subscribe to help us reach new listeners. I also invite you to check out my nonprofit, Hope for Healing, at the website hopeforhealingfoundation.org for free ebooks and other free resources to help increase happiness, build confidence and self-esteem, strengthen relationships, manage stress, and calm feelings of depression and anxiety. I also invite you to grab a copy of one of my books, like Crushed, A Journey Through Depression, or Amazon bestseller, You Got This, an action plan to calm fear, anxiety, worry, and stress. See you next time on Linda's Corner.